All right, well, now here's perhaps a controversial question. I think I might be in the minority on this one, but let's talk about the defense. Certainly Michigan State, over 400 yards of offense, Scott, but held to 20 points in regulation, held to field goals a number of times, 3 forced turnovers, and perhaps you can argue that's this Sparty-no being, Sparty. But how would you grade out the defense in this game with an A to F scale?
I think the stat you missed in there, Alex, is time of possession by Michigan State, almost 40 minutes. They dominated the line, they dominated the ball, and when you do that, Michigan, they can't get into a rhythm offensively. So sure, State only scored 20 points, but they really dominated the game, and that was because of the defense's inability to stop them when they really had to.
No, but how about Michigan with at least 5, I think it was maybe 6, 3 and outs in that game, Andy? All the blame can't go to the defense, can it?
I mean, obviously, the offense wasn't helping the D out any here, especially with that time of possession, number that Scott was talking about, the 40 to 20 minutes. But this line play, what you really need to look at is once the ball got to the second level, the linebackers were missing tackles left and right. There was terrible angles and pursuit. Multiple times you saw Kirk Cousin with his 5.7 40 speed breaking out for 40 yards. That's unacceptable. Linebackers, Obieze should be chasing that down. I don't see it as an excuse. Not to mention, I'm gonna go on Greg Robinson right now. He did not adjust to anything. You talk about that bubble screen. Me and you mentioned it about 6 times during the game. They were either throwing that quick bubble screen out or they were doing the fake bubble screen with a pitch weak side. It was definitely something that no one adjusted to, and the leaders on the defense should have done that, even if Greg Robinson wasn't. So I'm saying heck no. Look at the team stats, and I don't see the defense very effective.
That bubble screen working with such effectiveness in such a, dare I say, a Rich Rodriguez way. Amazing that at least Michigan didn't replicate it when they had the ball on offense. Really just a mind-numbing situation. Speaking of lack of brains, let's move on to Zoltan Mesko. Full disclosure, both Andy and Scott are Ross School of Business students right now. Zoltan, a recent graduate from the Ross School of Business. And let me just say that if you make these decisions in the business world, guys, I think we're all in trouble. I don't even have a question. This is just so not intelligent. I don't even think I can form a question about the unintelligence of this act. But obviously, Andy, Rich Rod was not pleased with that and seemed slightly stunned. But 4th and 1, only down by 4 points at that point in the game.
Their own 13-yard line.
We joked about going for it on 4th down before that happened. Of course, the next 2 drives, they had 4th and 1s as well on their side of the field that probably would have been more suitable for such a try. But what of giving your punter the responsibility to decide whether or not to run?
Well, I mean, all I got to say about this is, B school represent. But anyway, as far as Zoltan, it was simply a bad read. It happens. For all of you out there that aren't familiar with this play, it's a rugby punt formation. Mesko is going to be, swinging outside, and he's going to be looking to either punt the ball or take it if he sees a hole. He simply made the wrong read. He's not in the NFL yet. We all got our hopes out there for him. But maybe he can take this as a learning process, move forward, and he just made the wrong call. Obviously, it didn't help the team when the next 2 drives we were in 4th and 1 situations, and Rich Rod couldn't risk that turnover on downs again after that horrific Mesko turnover, which led to points. But it's as simple as that. You just got to give the guy a break when it worked 3 times last year at least. So
yeah. Of course, preceding that punt was a Donovan Warren interception that took away at least 3 points from Michigan State. They were in field goal range, Scott. And then after that play, of course, Michigan State picked up 3 points in a game that went to overtime, made a difference.
Yeah, it's how these games go. 3 points either way would have made it, obviously, if you end up tied. And it's a lot of times, especially in these close games, those little things add up with, you can say State had it with the turnovers, but when you make mistakes like that, Zoltan Mesko, he did well last year. He went 3 for 3 when he did those plays last year, but that was just not the right call by him in that instance.
All right, and we're running out of time in this segment, guys, but one last point. Tate Forcier, of course, gotta love the moxie of coming back in the 4th quarter yet again. 3rd time wasn't the charm, unfortunately. But that interception that he threw in the end zone in overtime. We saw that replicated a number of different times. Actually, before the Roy Roundtree pass, there was kind of a jump ball almost thrown into the end zone that got batted around and fell incomplete. Like Kevin Koger, long 41-yard bomb, was just throwing it up there in double coverage. Scott, we'll start with you. Is this Tate's freshman-ness coming out, or is this Tate's Brett Favre coming out? Is this just the way he plays?
I said this last week on the show. I'll say it again this week. Tate Forcier is a freshman. He's not going to win the Heisman this year. He's really has struggled the past 3 games. He played excellent against Notre Dame, but he's looked like a freshman the past 3 games. He really has, and he's just not there yet. We need to remember this is a 19-year-old kid who still is going to have a lot of trouble adjusting to an offense that he hasn't known that much. So, but really, you look at especially on that last interception, just a bad throw, a bad read. Odoms was well covered. He just shouldn't have thrown the ball. He just, it's a mistake, and it's going to happen more often with freshmen than seniors.
I'm going to take a different stance here on this. While Tate is a freshman, he's been in this offense since the spring. You see him throwing toss balls up, in the end zone 2 times, 1 intercepted, 1 thrown around in the air. It's just something we don't need as a team. Poise and not, comebacks and not, he needs to be more consistent. And, we need to get into his head that, yeah, he's not perfect. And, he could do with taking some of these as learning experiences.
I could go for the touchdown passes in the first quarter and not the fourth and take a little bit of the
Or
drama
both.
out of it. Or both. The preferable option. We have to go to commercial break. But coming back on the other side, we'll take a look at what happened in the Big Ten overall this past weekend. Welcome back to Varsity Blue. Alex Prasad, Andy Baena, Scott Wagner, talking Big Ten now. Got over the painful Michigan State loss. Let's take a look at the standing. We'll take a look at the results from the past week. Not a super interesting week in Big Ten play. Iowa barely beats Arkansas State 24-21. Wisconsin, that rivalry game with Minnesota, you always expect it to be close. A close win there. Penn State easily over Illinois. Ohio State easily over Indiana. Northwestern and Purdue had a shootout. Ooh, isn't that exciting? And then, of course, take a look at the Big Ten standings with Michigan falling from the ranks of the conference unbeatens. Now you only have Wisconsin, Ohio State, and Iowa there. Iowa should be ahead of Ohio State because they were undefeated in the regular season. That is my mistake. Well, let's talk about what happened this past weekend, guys, and let's start with Iowa, Arkansas State. Michigan, of course, goes to play Iowa. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But, Andy, Arkansas State, we saw Iowa struggle with Northern Iowa at home. What's going on with this Iowa team? Are they really that good?
I don't know. We're going to have to see them play some other, high caliber teams as far as, similar to the Penn State victory. But when you look at this game, it was a pretty ugly game. Iowa was up 21-7 entering the third quarter, early in the third quarter. But, with 2 minutes left, Arkansas, intercepted a pass, returned it 75 yards for a touchdown, and then went ahead with the go-ahead touchdown with 2 minutes left to pull within 21. And it was pretty ridiculous, surreal that it was happening like that. Iowa ended up pulling out the game, but it makes me think, what do we have to expect from these guys?
Yeah, exactly. And now what about Penn State, Illinois, Scott? And this will segue into our next discussion topic. But Illinois, again, is totally confusingly bad. What's going on in Champaign right now?
Ron
That was a good answer. Silence would work.
Ron Zook's struggling there. He struggled in Florida, and now he came in, he got some great talent, and he's starting to struggle with that talent again. Illinois, I was talking last week, they were a team that was favored by some to be a dark horse in the Big Ten. We're seeing they're really just not a very good football team, and we saw that last week, getting beaten by Penn State.
And of course, the reaction to these struggles